Whenever you're ready, Jack.
Good morning what am I talking about? Good evening.
And goodbye.
Let's start that over. Good evening, every people. This is the time of year that Cedarburg becomes even more magical, and there are many reasons for that. One of them is joining us today in the form of Cindy Graf. Cindy, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. I'd like to think I'm magic. I don't think everybody does.
Well, that's all right.
It's magical. Let's put it that way.
If you think you're magic, you are. That's reality.
Is that all it takes?
Yes. Yep.
No one told me.
There you go.
That's the secret. That's the secret. Cindy joined us last year. This is your second visit to the Jack Henke.
It is actually my second annual Christmas in the Berg family walk.
Excellent.
I planned to be a one and done thing last year, and I was very thankful that the Cedarburg Festival Committee called me and said, "You're doing this again, aren't you?" So we are doing it again, and we're
excellent
here.
Excellent. Thanks for being.
Isn't it nice when we have control of our own destiny?
Yeah, I kind of thought I was going to be a gig, but I guess it's a gig. So.
That's what you get for being so
right.
good.
That's right.
And brave. You're joining us for a second year in a row.
I know, really.
You're really good. Well, Cindy, tell us about the story. I mean, a refresher and I guess a renewal for people who don't know about the story out there about the Christmas in the Berg and the mice and the whole thing. Why don't you give us a little summation?
Yes. We raised our family. My husband Reed and I raised our family in Cedarburg and love all of the Cedarburg events. And my husband was a teacher. He wrote for the News Graphic as well as North Shore Lifestyle and did some feature articles and things like that for them. So he was always a writer, but he was a teacher first. And then he tragically had a bad heart episode, very healthy guy at 60, and was no longer able to teach and slowly declined. So in those 2 years when he was ill, he wrote a series of actually 8 books, 4 of which he published.
Okay.
And three published. And the 4th one about to be published, which was not illustrated yet, was Christmas in the Berg. So these books were actually for our grandchildren. They were written. It's about a grandpa, and he finds a mouse in his house, which is actually a true story. We had a mouse in our house in Cedarburg on our screen porch that would not go away. Had traps all around it, had poison out, could not get rid of the mouse. So we decided he was our friend. And we named him, and he would sit and watch TV, and there he'd be. He'd come out like I was feeding him or something. So that's how the first book started. It was about a grandpa whose heart had worn out, and he found this mouse in the house, and the mouse said, maybe we can live together. So the first book is about Grandpa and the mice finding that. And then we had a baby Georgia, so a grandbaby. So the second one was when there's one mouse, there's usually more, right? So he has a family of mouse now. And one of them they find is Georgia Rose, who is named after my 6-year-old granddaughter in Cedarburg, Georgia Rose. Then, of course, we had Fitzy. So we had to have another one. So the mouse in the 3rd book, Tale of 4 Tales, they take a cruise together, and at the cruise, a suitcase in the berth is kind of bumping, and out comes Fitzy, who's George's baby brother, and says, "Could he join our family too?" And Grandpa's like, "Sure." So the grandpa and the mice go on all these adventures together. So Christmas in the Berg, he passed away sadly after the 3rd book. After he passed, we had Hattie, baby Hattie, and baby Hattie didn't have a book. And that made me so sad. So my son Alex and I, who was a fellow at the time in hand shoulder surgery, which was a very busy man, and I remotely from Atlanta through the internet and so forth, rewrote Christmas in the Berg to put Hattie into the book. So she had a book. So we published it last year, and his dream was to have this event where we actually read the book to children and then walked them through the stops of the mice at a 5 Festive Friday Eve. And so I thought, I'm going to do this. It'll be really a fun project for me. I had just retired. I needed a good project. So we did the first one last year. And what it is it's called Christmas in the Berg Family Mouse Walk. And what we do is we gather, you make a reservation. We don't just like open it because we want it to be an experience in Christmas Festive Fridays. And so we meet at the Union House. And while they're waiting at the Union House, they get little mouse ears painted on, and they get little nose and whiskers and everything. And then they have hot chocolate and a cookie, and they listen to Mrs. Claus, the real Mrs. Claus from Santa's Workshop, read the Mouse Book. And then we go off in groups. I usually lead the first or second one with my family. And then we go through the stops that the mice went through during their mouse walk in Cedarburg on a 5 festive Friday Eve. So we go to the chocolate factory, then we cross over, and as a group, we go down to the carolers or the nativity at the church, which is what the mice did. And then we go over to the tree, the Christmas tree, and they get an ornament for their tree. And then we go to the end where one of our volunteers, Kathy, reads the end of the book, and then they get a little gift there. And then we have a nice photo op in the Santa's Workshop area. We have little characters they can put their faces through, and it's just like a really fun night for the kids.
Sounds like a heaven for a kid, for God's sakes.
It was a blast. And, you know, in my vision, I thought we'd be lucky to get 50 people, friends of our family. And thanks to your little radio show there and other news media that I used, we ended up with 309 people.
Wow.
Which was
It's a lot of mice. It's a lot of mice.
Cedarburg, and it was just darling to see the kids with their ears. And when they cross, I make them scream, "Mice are nice," so that people see them. And, you know, it's just a cute experience. And Whitney Clapper sings Christmas carols.
Oh, God.
Friend of the show.
Wonderful gal, and her new partner that she sings with. And that's always a highlight too. And she sings a favorite song of my husband's called Cheese Tater Tots to the tune of Feliz Navidad. So she leads the kids in that, you know, which is just like, you know, one of the fun things that we try to build in as a memory for our family, but also just kids love crazy stuff like that.
Yep.
You know what's great, Cindy, is you've given me an idea. I've never tried cheese on tater tots before, so now.
Taboo.
Oh, okay. Can't do it.
Man, what are you doing? Very cool. And so how does someone sign up? The space is limited for that, correct, Cindy?
Yes, it is. We cut it off at 300 people last year because we found that it was just the groups were too large.
Oh, yeah.
We need to keep it early because a lot of the kids are younger children. So we are going to cut it off at 300, and they would go to Eventbrite and just search for Christmas in the Burg, and they'll do our event.
Okay, and another way is to go to readgrafinc.com.
Yes, very good. Readgrafinc.com. And so there you can find out a little bit more about the event. You can see, and on Eventbrite, we have pictures from last year's event so that you can kind of see what it was like. And all I have to say is dress warm.
Right.
Last year it was a blizzard, and some of us were unprepared. It was a long, cold night. So dress those little kids up in bundles. And I have to share my favorite thing of the whole night with you guys is, and if you can imagine this, is down in front of the community center and the city hall is kind of a big open area where the tree is. And we had just had a huge snowfall during and right before the event. And the priceless thing to me was all the little kids doing snow angels in the grass, building forts, doing snowball fights with their dads and mom. It was just priceless. So that to me really made the event so special.
Very cool. Bulldog, if you click on events along the count on the thing, and it's REEDGRAFINK.
Yep.
People could read it. So
Thank you.
You're also going to be at the Cedarburg Community Tree Lighting this year.
I am, and that is on November 27th, and in the community center.
This is 28th on your website. I want to make sure we get that right.
It's
So.
the 27th, actually.
Okay. There we go. Okay. Duly
I
noted.
just looked it up. I'm sorry, that's last year's date. I'm so sorry we missed that.
That's all right. We caught
That's
it.
good.
Actually,
We're
the
good.
27th this year, Monday the 27th.
Okay.
After Santa comes through town and we do the tree lighting, there's a wonderful workshop for kids and families, and they come in and there's music there, and we have booths of craft activities for free they can do. I'm one of those vendors, and we make little mouse. This year we're making little mouse headband things, and they also upstairs, I believe, have a little shopping thing with reasonable, really inexpensive gifts for your family.
Very
So
nice.
check that out. That's a really, Cedarburg at Christmas. There's nowhere like it.
That's for
nowhere
sure.
like it. And I'm just proud to be a small part of that magic, as you said.
Yes, you bring in the magic, definitely. Well, it's a great way for you. The way things happen at work. You know, that you don't plan for it to be this book. You plan for someone you love, and the love comes through, and other people like, wow, that's pretty cool. Can we do this? And then it grows into something else. So, well
Yeah.
done. That's great.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm very pleased to get the opportunity to do it, first of all. And it's just, I love Cedarburg, and I love doing something. And one of the things that I love is seeing all the children come back. And that's why the Cedarburg Christmas Festival asked me back, is it brought so many kids down to the Five Festive Friday Eves.
Hmm.
And normally it was a lot of adults and shopping and having a cocktail and all that stuff. It's brought some families back, which is what it's about, right?
Very much so. You're lucky that this wasn't when my kids were young, because I would have come down to the Mouse Walk down at the Union House, and I would have said, "Okay, Cindy, you can have my kids for a couple hours. I'm planting it right here at the Union House.
Okay. That's where the husbands are.
Oh, that sounds a little sexist to me. I think that that's where the smart spouses are.
Yeah, that's right. And I will tell you, and that's where we'll be after it's over.
The other spouses are with the mouses.
Yeah.
The spouses who are the louses are at the bar. So very good.
Good
Very
stuff.
cool. Well, this is great. Not only you have a lot of information and magic to share, you've kept Bulldog quiet for about 15 minutes. And
It was good stuff.
Wow.
I do have one question. I have one. I can't
Good.
get away without one. And that, of course, besides the cheese on tater tots, are there plans for another book after Christmas in the Burg? Will there be more titles coming down the pike from? We need more mouse stories.
You never know. You never know. I did not plan my career to be an author at all, and I'm not one. So I don't know. We'll see what next year brings. Let's put it that way.
There you go.
That's
There
a
you
good
go.
way of, little cliffhanger there for everybody. Works great.
A Christmas cliffhanger.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Perfect. Good stuff. Well, best of luck with the big event. We're excited. I can't wait to see a bunch of little mice running around our town here, and we will probably talk to you next year around this time, I hope.
Excellent.
And I'll see you at the library on the 20th. We have a children's book reading.
Oh, fantastic.
Excellent.
Cool. Great.
Yeah, so I'll
Great.
see you there. And all the kids get little mouse ears and the whole 9 yards.
Well,
Excellent.
What time of day is that, Cindy? Do you know?
4:30
4:30 in the afternoon on the 20th
after school.
after school. Nice.
Absolutely. Great.
Yeah.
Nice. Very
Pretty
cool.
darn cool. All right.
Yeah.
Thank you, Cindy. Nice to see you again.
Yes.
Thanks for having me, and
You're
happy holidays early.
There we
All
go.
right.
All right.
Excellent.
To you
Never
as
too
well.
early,
To
right?
yours. All right.
That's right.
It relates to your topic, so we're actually already recording. I'll trim this later, or maybe not. But let me get the theme going here, and we'll be underway.
Perfect.
He's a lumberjack and he's okay. He shoots all night and he works all day.
I cut down trees, I skip and jump. I like to press wildflowers. I put on women's clothing and hang around in bars.
He cuts down trees, he skips and jumps. He likes to press wildflowers. He puts on women's clothing and hangs around. He's okay. He sings all night and he works all day.
That's right. It's our lumberjack expert.
Oh my goodness!
Oh,
I didn't know you were gonna
God.
put that in there.
That was a
know you're gonna find
long way to go for that.
Cuts
connection.
down trees. He skips and jumps.
Oh my God.
Puts on women's clothing. Hangs around in bars.
Is that Monty Python?
That is Monty Python. That was Michael Palin.
Okay,
Yes.
that seems like Monty Python.
Absolutely.
Very nice. Very
Good
nice.
day, Ben. How are you, our resident lumberjack?
I'm
I'm
good.
lumberjack.
That's
Good day to you as well. Lumbar Jack. I like the lumbar.
Everyone's favorite part of their body. If you say, "What's your favorite part?" I love the lumbar, man. That is just.
I love the lumbar spine.
It's got to be one of the top complaint spots of the entire body for people across all age groups, I would think. Yes.
Yeah, and I did a little ditty on the thoracic spine a couple weeks back, and
Yep.
and people actually kind of liked it. So I'm like, okay, well, let's just go over the other two areas. So
I couldn't find a thoracic song. Nothing rhymes with
Thoracic, yeah, you can find a thoracic song,
Thoracic
I'll be very
Park.
impressed.
There we
Thoracic Park. There you go. Yeah. But,
go.
Yeah, we should do some specific stuff on the other levels of the spine, which would be the lumbar and the cervical. So this week, the gist of my email and our YouTube episode and my conversation with you guys is going to be focusing on the lumbar spine. And Jack, yes, you are right. It is the number one most injured, most complained about spot in the entire human body. You know, so much more than the thoracic spine or the cervical spine, or knees or hips or any of that other stuff. So super relevant.
But they're all related.
So,
I mean, frequently your lumbar pains coming from an area that you would least expect.
Yeah, no, they are all related. And, and the reasons why the lumbar spine kind of has been put in that position where it ends up having problems a lot is because it really is like the workhorse of the spine. You know, it does a lot of the work. It is at the bottom of the spine, right? So all those forces and loads come down through into that area. So it gets a lot of the compressive force that the spine has to sustain. And even if you look at the lumbar spine, if you look at a lumbar vertebra compared to a cervical vertebra, the lumbar vertebrae are these big, beefy bones, you know, big discs, big bones, and all of the levels of the spine get kind of smaller and more petite as we work up to the cervical spine because, So
it's the base, right? It's like
the base.
Yeah,
it's the base, you know, and so the gist of the information I have is what does the lumbar spine do for us? But then how can we protect it a little bit? And in the video that I'm going to be shooting today, actually, we're going to go over my my favorite lumbar spine exercises that I typically have my clients, members, patients, and I do myself quite frequently to try to keep that area from being problematic, you know, so that I don't have to have a spinal surgery or anything coming up in the future. So
that's great. Are these moves, Ben, are these things preventive, or are they just managed? You should do it whether you have back issues or not. They're kind of how do these moves help someone specifically?
They are preventative, you know, and one of them is I was just doing it with a client this morning. It's just a kind of a neuromuscular re-education or a learning of what is motion at your lumbar spine versus motion at your hip. A lot of people don't know how to differentiate that. And that is probably one of the most critical things to have an awareness of if you're trying to make sure that you're not going to overload or hurt your lower back or spine. You know, you have to be able to differentiate, you know, where am I moving right now? Am I moving at my lower back or am I moving at my hip? You know, so one of them is a drill to just attempt to kind of feather that out and work on that, because the better you get at that, the better you're going to be, or the less apt you're going to be to injure that area. So let's go over first, like what the lumbar spine does, like what is its job? You know, there are 3 different kind of planes of motion the human body can go through. We talked about I'm going to see if you guys get extra bonus points for this. I don't think, Jeff, were you on the call with the thoracic spine? I don't think you were.
I think I was there. I remember that conversation.
Okay.
I know more about the thoracic spine.
Then you're on the hook for this. And all your viewers too, just shout out the answer if you remember this. But so the thoracic spine, what was its main movement pattern that it does? Was it flexion extension? Was it rotation left right, or was it side bending left right?
Flotation, rotation.
Did you say flotation?
Yeah, rotation. Flotation and rotation.
Hey, supplication.
I need to have like a dinger. Ding, ding, ding. Yes, you got that right, Jack. It is rotation. Yes. So the lumbar or the thoracic spine, one of its main jobs is rotation through your spine. And what's fascinating is that every single different level of the spine has different movement parameters, and then they all kind of get back together as a group and contribute to the motion of the total spine. And
it's crazy.
It's an incredibly complex structure, but beautiful when you look at it and the way it was designed and how it moves. But when we get,
I don't want to get religious. I don't want to get religious on this show, but like when you look at the spine, you know, throw that in an atheist's face. Look at that thing. That's design work, man.
Yeah, no, I mean, it definitely looks like somebody had some kind of thought process going on when they created that. It's an incredible structure. Yeah. You think of how many joints there are in the spine, you know, so like there's 5 lumbar vertebra, there are 12 thoracic vertebra, there are 7 cervical vertebra, and every single one of those levels has 2 facet joints, and all those joints are working in concert to produce movement. It's really, really cool.
It's crazy.
And those joints, if you look at the spine, I should have brought my spine with me today. I have my spine. But I don't have
Good. I was going to say,
spine. But, like we were looking at that.
Our resident jellyfish.
Other time we talked about it, about like what do those at each level, the orientation of the facet joints changes. Like they might be more angled in the thoracic spine, or they're more in the lumbar spine. They're very much so upright, like this. And that's why they can't rotate, because they bang into what they do is they flex and extend. And that, if you look at them, it's like, oh, okay, I can totally see why that would be, because they are aligned that way. So
it's that complexity, though, I would think that is their undoing, because as they say, the more complicated the plumbing, the easier it is to stop up the drains. So, I mean, maybe that is why the lumbar spine is the most injured area in the human body. You're right. It's super complicated in there. I mean, it's not like you look at the knee, it's a simple hinge joint, or the elbow, a simple hinge joint. It just does one thing. It's, super easy. But, I'm actually impressed how little people get injured at their backs for how much crap is going on what
there.
could go wrong?
Right.
Yeah, I mean, it's the channel for your entire nervous system that connects the entire body, kicks your brain to every other aspect of your body, with those spinal nerves popping out at every single level, innervating all the different tissue, organs, all the skin, everything in your entire body.
You're freaking us out, man.
Structure.
Yeah, freaking us out.
Yeah.
That's my job. That's my job to freak you out. Whether I'm freaking you out about food, exercise, or your spine, it's my job each week.
Well, the food we need work on, but you've got us sold on the spine. I can tell you that.
You should be. Oh.
It is amazing. The first thing you said is we talked about being the most complained about area. Even that, though, it seems like what you just said is true, Ben. With all that you just talked about and the complexity, it's a miracle that more people aren't screwed up.
100%. Yeah, and if you look at those facet joints, they're teeny little joints. Even in the lumbar spine, they're relatively small. So you got these teeny little delicate-looking joints that are, you look at how much load goes through the spine when you do a deadlift, or you like lift something heavy from the floor, or whatnot. It's like, wow, I'm surprised those don't just snap right off.
Right.
But it's the way the ligaments and the muscles and the discs all work together so that doesn't happen. And that's where having some awareness of what is motion at your spine, what each area of your spine can actually do motion wise, and then what is motion at your hip. So you have to have that differentiation. And really, in the video that I'm going to be shooting today, it's going to be talking about how do you know that as like the average person, like, am I moving up my back or my hips? So that is one of the exercises that I'm going to be showing in the video. So like we just talked about, so flexion extension is what the lumbar spine does a ton. Main movement pattern. It also does a little bit of side bending, left, right. It does almost no rotation. So that's kind of an interesting one, because I think most people think there's a lot of rotation that happens at your spine, at the lumbar part. Mm-hmm. There's virtually none, so that goes back again to that thought process before of like, we have to be able to rotate where we're supposed to rotate. So if the thoracic spine gets really locked up and tight, it's going to skew downward towards the lumbar spine, causing that area where you're going to want to rotate there, you can't, and that's when the injury occurs. Interesting point too, guys. So every single segment of the spine contributes to the greater motion of the spine. So when somebody has a surgery, like a fusion, whether it's at their lumbar spine, their cervical spine, or wherever, and a fusion is, just for anybody that doesn't know what that is, they're creating it so that vertebral level can no longer move anymore, right? They're fixating it. When that happens, you are permanently losing that little bit of motion that segment contributes to the whole. And that's why those surgeries are really ones you want to avoid. And there are cases in which you have to have those because the pain is so severe and the problems are there. There are certainly instances in which you have to have that surgery, but it's one that I personally am going to attempt to avoid as much as possible throughout my life. Because once you do that, everything below that segment and above, and many times they'll fuse several segments at once. Like I have a friend going in for a spinal fusion where he's having 3 levels of his lumbar spine fused. Wow. And so what is he not going to be able to do then?
Anything.
Probably.
No,
I bet tying his shoes would be problematic.
Golfing you won't be able to do, right?
He is not going to be able to flex at his lumbar spine ever again. When you do have a permanent change, like a fusion happen at a level of your spine, you just have to realize, okay, I'm going to have to learn how to move differently, because you're not going to be able to get that back through physical therapy. You're not going to get that back from an additional surgery. You're not going to get that back from strength training or going to the gym. Like once that permanent change has occurred in that structure, you're living with it for the rest of your life. So really what your mental thought process has to be then is, how do I live with it? What motion am I lacking now? And how can I be protective of the other areas of my spine or my hips so that I don't injure anything else? That makes sense?
Wow.
It sounds like his, it's going to be tough to pick up the ladies.
Totally.
Guess what I can't do?
Well,
Yeah.
no.
Totally.
You just be always erect.
Yes. Well, and yes, that's
Thank
true
you, Jack.
to a certain extent. And and really, guys, like when we think of the spine, when you are loading your spine, are you typically moving through the spine when you're lifting really heavy loads, or should you be in a fixed position at your spine?
I'm thinking, like they always say, lift with your legs. So I'm thinking you should be in a fixed, right?
Yes, correct. So even if somebody has had some of those instances where they've had a surgery at their lumbar spine, they cannot move through there naturally. Just realize though, it's not a death sentence. It's like you're not really supposed to be moving at your lumbar spine anyways. Anytime you pick up anything heavy, like you said, when I do my internship groups here at Form and Fitness, we go through a little learning system, where we'll talk about like a deadlift, which is a move we do in the gym, is something that is where you're lifting with your legs, right? And I always ask them, guys, okay, guys, you're teaching this client the deadlift, and they're lifting this heavy barbell or this kettlebell or this medicine ball from the floor. How much motion should they have at their lumbar spine when they're doing that? And they'll look at me kind of like deer in the headlights. Well, is it none? And I'm like, yes. How much motion should be happening at their thoracic spine? None. How much motion should be happening at their cervical spine? None. So when you're going under heavy loads under the spine, typically you're not moving at the spine at all anyways, but it's again, learning to differentiate, because I can guarantee you, Jack, even, as skilled and as advanced of an exerciser as you are, I'd be curious to see, if you would be able to differentiate the two.
Oh, no. And I've had when I was young, Ben, I had back injuries. I was in a car accident that I tore the ligaments in my lower spine off my lower spine. I was always grateful that the doctor I had said, we're not doing, everybody says get surgery. We're not doing surgery. We're going to repair this through exercise. And so I have to this day, back exercises that I'm supposed to do every day. I'm sure they're outdated, but they still work for me. But I do them every time I'm in the gym. I do those. So I do them because I was lucky that I had a doctor. I wasn't lucky to get it, but I was lucky that I had a doctor who didn't say, all right, we got to go in there and repair it. I consider myself a lucky person because of that. And so I've always been very wary of how you lift things up, and everything, whether it's, moving, helping a buddy move. Well, you just got to help me move a couch, bend over, and, it's like, oh my God, no, don't do that. So it's just not
like worth it.
Right.
If you can't do it with proper body mechanics, don't do it.
Right.
Figure out a different way to lift that heavy thing from the floor with a strap or doing something differently, but yeah, we're always having to move heavy equipment around here at the gym.
Oh yeah.
But you start to, and even movers, I've heard movers talk about this, people that move a lot of stuff, because there's enormous loads put through the spine when you're moving heavy things from the floor, which they do like all day long.
Yeah.
Right.
But they have little tricks that they do, where I even heard one guy say, well, if we don't like the new guy, we don't teach him any of the tricks. He's hurt the first week anyways.
The weeding out process.
Yeah, there's little tricks. Where they use straps. I've actually learned a lot from watching people move furniture and stuff. Like they have all these different things they use: rollers, sliders, straps, so that they don't blow out their backs. Because if you put your back in a bad position, no matter how strong you are, no matter how young you are, there is a really good chance you could hurt that in a really bad way, and that's why I'm always harping on everybody here at our gym. If you're going to do exercises where you're picking up heavy weights from the floor, you better be doing those correctly. You cannot do those exercises in bad form, because those are the number one type of exercises that we see here, where we see people having to come into clinic then and get treatment for blown out discs, bulge discs, all the different bad things that can happen in that area.
You just hear the scuttlebutt and the over by the treadmills. Hey, don't lift that up the wrong way, or Ben will dock you.
Ben's the least of your worries. I don't know, Ben, if you've noticed, usually when you're telling us something, we're both like, let's figure out a way to gross them out or get them off it. But during this one, we're both like, and then
You're
we've
listening
also
this time. What's going on?
we've also, I don't know if you noticed, we both keep straightening up as you're
your
talking.
posture,
Yeah.
I did notice that. Your posture is really good.
We're both ready to sing our
impressed.
I'm a lumberjack.
So, okay, here's another fun fact for you on the lumbar spine. You're going to guess this because you're going to, okay. But anyways, I'll pose the question to you.
All right.
Where is there more pressure put on your lumbar spine discs? Is it in standing or is it in seated position?
Well, I know you're such a fan of the seated position that I'm going to opt for the seated position.
Yes. But wouldn't you think, like, that's correct, but wouldn't you think that it would be this, like, sitting would it be less pressure on your back than standing?
Yes.
You would think that, yeah.
I mean,
how does that work?
It isn't because of like how your body's aligned in a seated position versus standing. There's more pressure in your lumbar spine in a seated position. So, and certainly you can feel that. Like anybody who has like injured their lower back, what is the hardest thing to do is like getting out of a seated
Getting
position,
out of a chair,
right?
getting out of your car.
Yeah, getting out of your car. It's like that when you get in that seated position, it puts more pressure on those discs than trying to get out of that. But like it's just awful, and that's where. Obviously, it's still not enough pressure that you're just going to blow out a disc in a seated position. But when you're sitting for several hours a day, that's where like maybe having a standing desk or being in a standing position, that load over a long period of time can cause problems. But it's not going to be like a acute injury type situation.
Well, Ben, I have actually. I'm going to be recording a new CD soon, a disc, some tracks for Spotify. Me getting out of a chair because I make great old man noises. Let me tell you, my kids love them. They live for them.
Yep.
They're melodic.
I hear you. And that's where all this stuff comes into play. Is like keep your hips mobile. Be strong at your lumbar spine so you can keep it stable. Have motion at your thoracic spine, keep that area mobile, so that you then don't have the old man noises when you're getting out of the chair. And then all the other things factor into that as well, Bulldog, where the lighter you are and the stronger you are is going to factor into old man noises. So if you're stronger and lighter, you're not going to be making as many old man noises, so it's
faltering a bit on both those topics categories right now.
You could even take it back to even nutrition, then if you're eating a very inflammatory diet, like you're going to have more aches and pains at your spine than if you're eating a diet that supports, keeping things less inflamed, so, it's funny to me studying this stuff so extensively over the years, how many parallels there are between all of the different things, it's just like, it's best to do all of them well.
Right.
And I still don't think, I contend it takes no more time to eat crappy food than it takes to eat good food. Don't get me back on the food topic. Are we going back to the food topic?
we love the food topic.
Yeah.
It's a key part of our time together, Ben.
There's no difference in the amount of time it takes. It's just taking that effort to find out what's good for your body. Oh God,
you want a pumpkin?
I do not want a pumpkin. No, I do not want a disgusting, sugary, nasty pumpkin. I don't want any of those. See, here it comes. Whenever we bring up the food topic, here it comes. You're baiting me with all these horrible, disgusting things.
God. Ben,
only one or two left, so it's fine.
Oh God!
Right.
The rest are all the way going past his lumbar through his right now.
You did the candy tax on your children apparently, huh? Your Halloween candy
I taxed Cedarburg actually.
Well, with Bulldog, it's a candy attack. It's not a candy tax.
Shake him down, I say.
Ben, you mentioned before the difference between hips and lumbar. What's the difference? I mean, they're at about the same level, aren't they, in your body, or are the hips lower? How do you tell? What do you do?
So the hip joint. So it's weird. It's strange. Like your upper body has kind of like your arms, meaning everything from your shoulder to your hands. It's somewhat similar from everything from your hip to your feet. So at the top and the bottom of our torso, we have these ball and socket joints, right? We have the shoulder ball and socket joint, and we have the hip ball and socket joint. Those are incredibly mobile joints, and they're meant to have a lot of motion. Like the shoulder has, I think it has the greatest range of motion of any joint in the body. I mean, like, huge range of motion at our ball and socket there.
Yeah.
So that's where a lot of the motion should be coming when you're doing different things with your body. It should not be coming from the spine, especially when you're lifting heavy stuff, so that right below your spine sits on top of the sacrum, which connects into the pelvis, and your pelvis bone is connected to the hip bone. And so like you've got the you got the ball and sockets. The ball and sockets are in the pelvis, right? You know, and they give you that motion at your hip. You know, so they're right underneath. But a lot of people cannot differentiate bending forward at their hip versus bending forward at their spine. You know, so when I'm training people to do that, I typically, do we still have a moment? Do you want me to show you this?
Go for it. Yeah.
Okay, let's see if we can get this. Look at that. I've gotten so much more technical with my system here now. Okay, so I gotta go this way. Okay, there we go. Okay, so if I'm going to bend forward, and what I normally do is I'll put my hand on my lower back, or I'll put my hand on the back of my patient, and I'll say, okay, now what I want you to do is I want you to bend just using your hip joint. So when you bend just using your hip joint, it looks almost like a bow to the Queen of England, right? And if you do it correctly and you come down, you will feel no separation happening on the back of your shirt in the lumbar spine area, and you'll start to feel your hamstrings get tight, okay?
Oh, okay, yeah.
So if you come down this way, it's like, okay, how can I stretch my hamstrings as quickly as possible without feeling any movement under my hand? And then once you get to that point, I then have people, okay, once you've gotten there and you pushed into that, now flex at your lower back.
That's great.
We're good.
So you know, so you've got hip. This is all hip flexion.
Yep.
Here comes lumbar flexion.
But
it's the ability to differentiate when those two things are happening. You know, so and what is the most key concept in that is, can I stabilize my lumbar spine while I'm moving at my hip? And a lot of people can't do that. If they do hip flexion, they're also flexing at their spine. If they do extension at their hip, they're extending at their back, you know, and those are the people that usually end up with really bad arthritis over time in their hip and their spine because they're not stabilizing appropriately. So, you know, why does one person, I was like the guy I was working with today who has really good body awareness. He's 70 years old. He's a orthodontist and fantastic body awareness, not any joint pain anywhere in his body. He was doing like single leg squats. He skis still. I mean, it's like, it's really impressive, but when you watch the way he moves, it's not surprising that he's in such good orthopedic health in his 70s. Versus when I watch the way other people move, the way they posture and all that, it's not surprising that they have knee replacements, hip replacements, a degenerated back, you know, and we're all going to get that stuff eventually. We just don't want it like in your 60s and 70s, right? I'd rather, let's postpone that until our 90s if we can make it that long, you know?
That's a good plan. That's a good plan. I like that.
excellent.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
All right. That's
well, that
all
helps.
I got.
Wow.
That helps.
That's a lot.
No,
I
that
regurgitated. Sorry.
no. That was good. That's very. It's like it's eye opening.
Yeah.
You know, when you think of how complex the spine is, and then how many things can go wrong in there, and how lucky you are if nothing's going wrong. So what do you do to keep it going?
Yeah, that's where I think it makes sense. Where everybody should move every day. Everyone should have some thoughtful mobility stuff in their routine. Everyone should keep their cardiovascular fitness levels up because it is an absolute gift. Every day you're able to move around appropriately, and most people are not in. When you get past the age of like 35, most people can move still, but most people are in pain every day at one joint or another, you know, and if you can move with no pain in your body past the age of 35, you should be thanking your lucky stars and you should be very protective of your ability to move that way because nothing's worse than, you know, moving around where everything hurts all the time. You know, it's not fun.
Well, I know a resource you can use that is free of charge. All you got to do is head on over to YouTube and check this these bunch of wacky guys out. You've got all kinds of material here and plenty of things that'll keep you moving, and you don't even have to leave your house.
Yeah, I saw some of your thoracic one, Ben. That looked pretty funky with the band overhead. That looked.
Yeah, that is one of my favorite movements ever. I love that. It just, when you do that, Jack, you can almost feel like your whole spine has gotten unlocked. It feels so good. You know,
I'm trying that tomorrow. I'm doing that.
Yeah,
one.
Try that one out. It's pretty gentle. You know, I mean, it's not, it might look like it's complicated or it would put a lot of load in your spine. It doesn't. It's not. Just do a light rubber band. You know, don't do it with like a super heavy rubber band, or otherwise you're gonna.
Yeah. No. I get it. I'm after today. I'm like, okay. What are we? How are we going to do this? We're not going to. I'm staying out of that clinic. That's for sure.
So if your viewers want more information on the lumbar spine, we are going to be popping that video on our channel probably like Monday or Tuesday.
Cool.
So,
Well, very
all right.
All right. Fantastic, Ben. Always
Thank you, guys.
informative. I walk away from these things feeling smarter. It doesn't last, but I feel it for a little while.
I vouch for that. I can back him up on that. And Ben, they can also come if someone wanted to come and talk to your PT there you have right in the gym, right? So
we have therapy locations in all of our locations. So if anyone wants a free injury eval with one of our amazing physical therapy professionals, we are always available to do that. If a question on a knee, a hip, a neck, a wrist, whatever, please come on by, stop in.
Cool.
You don't need even a doctor's referral for that. One of our therapists can just give you our best thoughts on what you have going on there and maybe make some recommendations.
Cool. Excellent.
You heard it here first, folks.
All right.
Maybe even second, but excellent. Have a good week, Ben.
Well, thanks a lot.
Hope to see you next week. All right.
See you next week.
Bye, guys.
Take care.
Bye. All right, that's Dr. Ben, and that's it for a Friday show. We had Cindy for the first segment and Ben for the second, and
Pretty stellar show.
yeah, not bad. It was one of those shows that we can be proud of, even though we didn't have to do a whole lot.
That's why. That's why we're proud of it.
It required nothing of us.
Hello, intro.
Showing up. They say showing up's half the battle. I won half the battle. I like it.
No. Woody Allen said 80% is showing.
Is it 80? Okay, I wasn't sure what the percentage was. It's going down. Yeah. It's all right. What kind of bad food are you eating tonight? You doing a fish fry? You doing pizza? What are you doing? The pen's gone. Come on, Friday night.
I don't know. I still have mom in the hospital, so gonna be. You don't know what my plans are. It's
sure.
But that's another thing, man. You go in, you visit someone in the hospital, and you think. We walk out and you go, I am so lucky not to be staying in here right now.
I tell you.
It really is an eye-opener for all the little complaints you have.
Ship there at Aurora or St. Mary's?
She's in the Freighter system, so she's she started in Mequon, now she's in Menominee Falls. Where
Gotcha. All right.
But Bulldog, I want to pump this. Have you heard of this book?
I have not. I've seen the cover around. I think we got it here at the library.
Good. This is an unbelievable book.
Yeah.
It really is.
What's it going to do for me?
It's gonna make you think about how you think about things.
Oh boy.
Yeah, not deep, but think about going, oh God, and you get yourself thinking, how it's the age old. Well, Stoicism is how old, but it's just it's not the event that is bad. What is bad is how you react to
it. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, so I mean, the event's gonna happen. Most events you can't do anything about. Yeah. So what are you gonna do about it? You're gonna bitch about it, or you're gonna think about it, or what are you gonna do?
No, it was funny. I had a version of that just yesterday because I had my flu shot on Wednesday, like I told you, and Thursday morning, 4 a.m., I woke up just shaking and quaking. And in the past, I would have been like, well, crap, I'm dying. And this time around, I said, wait a minute, I've done this before. I know what this is. So I'm just going to ride it out quietly as best I can. And, it was nice. I weathered it, and it wasn't a big deal, as opposed to like 4 or 5 years ago when it would have been like, well, okay, where's the will? Get my pencil. I need to make a will right now.
Get my pencil.
Leaving all my cats to Jack.
They'll be in the grave with you.
Okay. Get me my will and an eraser.
Give them Lisa Curtis. She'll take care.
There you go. That's true. That is very true.
Crazy cat lady.
Hey, since you're showing off books, hey, show me yours. I'll show you mine. This was awesome. It's a Siskel and Ebert story. How Siskel and Ebert changed movies forever. Opposable Thumbs just came out, I want to say maybe about 3 weeks ago. We don't have it here yet. I got this out of Oosberg in the library system, but we will have it. I had Sarah order a copy. This was the most fun read I have had all year. Just a blast. The characters that they played on TV and that they couldn't stand each other. No, they weren't playing characters. I mean, it came out of a place of mutual respect and eventually a kind of mutual love, a brotherly love sort of thing. But the first 10 years they were together, oh God, they would argue. They were thrown out of airports for arguing who got the window seat.
Back in those days when they put up a lot more crap.
Right.
Pre 2000 9/11.
9/11, right?
The funniest thing,
Great
I
read.
can't remember what movie it is, but I'm sure it's in that book. There was one movie, I think it was a horror or science fiction movie. I'm not sure, but one of them put it on their 10. It was a year-end thing. Put it on their 10 best thing, and then I think it was.
I know the
think it was
movie.
the other one said. The other guy said, "You're doing that just to bait me," or something like that. Just because it was on his 10. One of his 10 worst that he couldn't stand. What movie was it?
I think it was Blue Velvet. They had a huge blowout over David Lynch's Blue Velvet back in '86.
I don't think so.
No,
just it might be. It might be. This one was more like. I mean, it was more like magic. Okay. Something like maybe.
Okay.
But maybe that's it. But I just remember the other guy going, I can't believe you did you just do that? Basically, you're saying, did you do that to aggravate me?
I'm sure. It was wild, though, because what these guys did for film criticism before these guys was like stuffy, stodgy kind of, except for like Rex Reed, who was just kind of obnoxious. But I mean, they, just for being two guys from Chicago, having that much effect on Hollywood is amazing. I mean, what a absolute coup. I mean, these guys just, Hollywood feared them.
Oh yeah, book show and tell. This is another one.
There we go. We're out about it.
And the reason I bring that up is he says in here that he's talking about in the days when his movies were coming out, that
The Predator, Commando, all that kind of stuff. Yeah,
movie critics in those days could make or break your movie,
especially those guys.
what a big deal it was when Terminator came out, because everybody was classifying it as just this killing, thing, and how he talks about how he had to have an aggressive promotional tour with James Cameron about. He's a machine, not a person, and the thing, and this is a warning to civilization, not. But he mentioned them. He mentioned Leonard Maltin. He didn't say Gene Siskel. He was another one.
Siskel was, I mean,
I'm not Gene Siskel. Who's the other guy?
Gene Shalit.
Gene Shalit. That's the guy. He was funny.
He was funny. But all those guys started showing up on TV on Good Morning America and the Today Show because of these guys. Because they brought. They started out with a show that I was like of the movie, but it became sneak previews on public television. And when it was sneak previews, they just public TV even wasn't used to that kind of meteoric rise in ratings. And when they switched over to syndication and, Disney bought them out. And of course, Disney was like, well, now that we own Siskel and Ebert, they'll give our movies good reviews. And both of them said, absolutely not. You will not, you will be, and they were, they had their own code of ethics and they stuck to them the whole way. Really fascinating stuff. And and the thing of the book also contends, and it's true, is you'll never see something like them again. The integrity that those guys had just in reviewing, they had all kinds of picadillos, but when it came to reviewing things, they did it in such a way that nobody does anymore. There's a million movie reviewers now. They're all over YouTube. Just throw a rock, you'll hit one. And throw it hard, please. And they really, it's not just about Gene and Roger. This is really, if you're into like just media studies and journalism and culture and pop culture, it's all in this great, beautifully written. This Matt Singer is the author. I don't think it's glowing away there, but I mean, God, he did a good job. This is just a wildly entertaining book. They were a blast on Letterman. When they come on Letterman loved having them on. Yeah, great stuff.
Opposing thumbs. That's what that's called.
Opposable thumbs. How Siskel and Ebert. That you will never see again. By the way, a movie review that says 2 thumbs up. They own the trademark to that, and they're both obviously not longer with us. But the estate of both owns 2 thumbs up. You won't see thumbs. You can't. They own that. They own that review. So
really?
Yeah, pretty interesting. They said they used to review movies on sneak previews as yes and no. They're just like, should you see it? Yes or no. Very binary, right? But yeah, once they got to their big show, the syndicated show, they started doing the thumb thing, and it just took off. So yeah, it was wild. Good stuff. Hey, look at that. You got Dr. Ben, all kinds of book reviews. You got extra stuff. Feel free to, when the tip jar comes by, you feel free to fill that up good. Yeah. we got to eat. All right. But that's okay. I'm covered over here. All is fine.
Man.
All right. Have a good weekend, everybody. Back on Tuesday with more shows.
And Lisa Curtis.
Which should be